Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for something big.
Something Anthropic is calling a quantum leap.
Exactly. We're focusing on Claude Opus 4.5. It was released just yesterday, November 24th, 2025, but the industry is already calling it a silent revolution.
Well, it's certainly not silent in the boardrooms, I can tell you that.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive is, I think, pretty clear.
Yeah, we need to peel back the layers of hype here. We need to distill what the core value of Opus 4.5 really is.
And figure out if this model truly changes the game. I mean, for coding, for autonomous agents, even just basic business tasks.
It's a huge claim.
It is. And maybe let's start by setting the stage, because Anthropic isn't some small startup.
Not at all. It was founded by ex-OpenAI researchers, people who really prioritize safety right alongside raw power.
And they have staggering financial backing. We're talking a valuation of, what, $350 billion?
Supported by titans like Microsoft and NVIDIA. This is a real heavy hitter.
And sources like CNBC and Highs are confirming just how extensive the testing was, so this isn't vaporware?
No. But what's immediately captivating is, I think, the sheer audacity of the claim itself.
The fanfaronio, as they put it.
Exactly. Anthropic is just flat out asserting that Opus 4.5 is the best in the world in coding, agents, and using computers.
And they're calling out rivals by name, saying it makes GPT 5.1 and Gemini 3 Pro blush on benchmarks.
Which is a bold move.
It is. But we've heard bold claims before, so why should we believe this one? What's the actual evidence that makes this feel different?
That's the right question to ask. And the evidence isn't just in the numbers, which, we'll get to.
Okay.
It's in the unique philosophy and the architecture that let them get here so quickly and so safely. Before we even touch performance, we have to talk about constitutional AI.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because it isn't just a catchy marketing term, right? This is an academic approach from a 2022 paper.
It is. And for you, the listener, this is the whole tactical advantage.
Oh, so?
Well, with traditional models, their competitors, safety is often bolted on afterwards with massive amounts of human feedback, RLHF.
Which is slow.
It's slow, it's expensive, and it can introduce all sorts of human biases. Constitutional AI tries to bypass a lot of that.
So instead of having humans police the AI from the outside, they've given the AI an internal rule book, an ethical constitution.
Precisely. It learns to self-evaluate its own safety and usefulness. It's like teaching a digital prodigy a moral code that's just baked into its core.
And that lets them iterate faster.
Way faster. They can push performance to the limit because the AI is intrinsically designed to be harmless. It reduces the number of ethical landmines that usually slow everyone else down.
So that philosophy directly feeds their first huge goal, what they call absolute dominance in coding and agent work.
Yeah, in those really complex, multi-step reasoning tasks, they want to be the undisputed king.
So not just generating a little code snippet.
No. Think about fixing a bug in some messy, interconnected legacy system, something that requires checking dependencies across, multiple files and systems. That's the target.
And they put a number on it. 80.9% success on the SWE bench verified standard. For those not living in benchmarks, what does that actually mean?
SWE bench is the gold standard for real-world coding. It's not a synthetic test.
Right.
It tests an AI's ability to resolve genuine GitHub issues from open-source projects. So hitting 80.9% means the model can autonomously fix 4 out of every 5 complex real-world software bugs.
And here's the fact from the source material that it really sticks with you.
The exam one.
Yes. They claim this AI solves complex engineering exams better than any human they have on staff.
Which suggests this isn't just a 5% improvement. This is a completely different kind of confidence.
It's a qualitative leap. Okay, so that connects to their second big goal, which is more about democratization and safety.
Right, the practical side. They're pushing security really hard, aiming to be, and I'm quoting here, the most resistant to malicious tricks in the industry.
We're talking about prompt injections.
We are. Those attacks where someone tries to trick the AI into ignoring its rules. And they say resistant, not immune, which is an important distinction.
Why is that such a focus now?
Well, because the stakes are higher. If Opus 4.5 is really an agent that can work for hours on its own, a prompt injection isn't just an annoyance, it's a critical vulnerability.
And that's where the constitutional AI comes back in.
It's what they rely on to maintain that resistance, even when the input is designed to be confusing.
What's also fascinating is the accessibility piece, the pricing. High-end AI is usually expensive.
But they're committed to lowering costs by, what, 67%?
A huge drop. The API pricing is $5 per $1 million input tokens and $25 for output.
Which, as the source material pointed out, makes it cheaper than a latte in Manhattan.
That's a great line, but let me push back on that a bit. Does lowering the cost for huge corporations really help the little guy, the startup ecosystem?
That's a fair question. It does both, I think. But the effect on smaller players, or PIMEs, is real.
In what way?
For a single developer or a tiny startup, that lower cost means they can actually experiment. They can iterate without, bankrupting themselves over a weekend. It makes advanced AI a utility, not a luxury. That's the revolution they're selling.
Okay, let's pivot. Section 2. The tech that actually makes this happen. To really get the impact of Opus 4.5, we probably need the quick history of the Claude family.
Right, the saga. So we start with Claude 1 back in 2023. It was solid, but pretty limited in math and reasoning.
Then Claude 3 came in March 2024.
And that already signaled big ambitions. It surpassed foundational benchmarks like MMLU, which is a key test of world knowledge.
But the real turning point was just a few months later, June 2024, with Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
That's when things went into hyperdrive. Sonnet was so good at coding, it actually humiliated the previous flagship model, Opus 3.
Can you make that humiliation tangible? What could it do that Opus 3 couldn't?
So a good example would be complex JSON manipulation nested inside multiple API calls. Opus 3 would often struggle with that. Sonnet 3.5 could handle it seamlessly. First try, much cleaner code, a huge jump in reliability.
And now we have Opus 4.5, the culmination. What are the key technical innovations that give it this edge?
So the first is just raw memory capacity, the context window. It's 200,000 tokens.
Which is about 500 pages of text.
Roughly, yeah. You can feed it a massive technical manual, an entire code base, and it can hold all of that in its short-term memory for a task. No forgetting.
But that's only half the story, you said.
Exactly. The other innovation is what they call interleaved thinking. This is crucial.
Okay, what is that?
Think about how you solve a complex problem. You don't just write the final answer. You use a scratch pad. You write down intermediate steps, little notes to yourself.
So the AI is basically taking notes as it goes.
Precisely. It preserves these blocks of prior reasoning. This is what stops it from getting halfway through a long task and having that silly forgetting moment where it loses track of its original goal. It's what allows it to work for hours.
So let's move beyond the benchmarks and look at how this plays out in high-stakes fields, like science.
What's fascinating is that previous versions were already beating human experts in some areas.
You're talking about protocol QA.
Exactly, a benchmark for following complex lab procedures. Even Sonnet 4.5 was scoring higher than human experts, 0.83 to 0.79. Opus 4.5 just pushes that further.
And I saw in the source material it's specifically tuned for bioinformatics.
Yes, in the life sciences. It excels in benchmarks like BixBench, which is incredibly technical. It has to predict things like drug toxicity or protein folding. That requires a deep scientific understanding, not just language.
And all this capability feeds into what they call its agentic quality.
Right. Evils on platforms like Amazon Bedrock show it has this striking superiority in enterprise agent tasks.
And the developers testing it had a great quote. They said it handles ambiguity without babysitting.
And that's the key. You can give it a vague request, and instead of just stopping, it uses its massive context and that interleaved thinking to figure out the most likely path forward. It only bothers you when there's a really high-risk decision to be made.
I love the analogy they used. It's like moving from an enthusiastic intern to a McKinsey consultant with superpowers.
It's a great analogy.
But what do superpowers actually mean here in practice?
It means autonomy and integration. The agent can access external systems, it can run financial models on its own, it can manage huge databases without constant human hand-holding, it understands the intent, and it can just execute.
And it's built right into the tools now. Chrome extensions, Excel extensions.
Yep, it converts Claude into a desktop agent right in your workflow. The human job shifts from doing the task to just setting the high-level intention.
Okay. The performance claims are massive, the tech is advanced, the pricing is aggressive. Now for the reality check. What are the hidden challenges that we need to be aware of?
Well, first, we have to acknowledge the market impact. Surveys are already showing Opus 4.5 has claimed 42% of the enterprise coding market since launch. That's lightning speed.
But success doesn't mean we stop asking hard questions.
Never. So challenge number one is the difficulty of evaluation. We talked about SWE bench, but Simon Wilson raised a really good point here.
Which is?
Are these benchmarks truly testing the messy, real-world stuff that older models always failed on?
Because the real world isn't a clean, standardized test.
Not at all. It's broken dependencies, bad documentation, legacy systems. If the AI is just optimized for the test, it might still fall over when it hits true, unpredictable enterprise chaos. We need more examples of it succeeding on things that were previously impossible.
That makes perfect sense. Challenge number 2, the hidden cost of verbosity.
This is a tricky one. The price per token is low. That cheaper than a latte rate is very attractive.
Yeah.
But the model tends to generate a lot more tokens than its rivals. Because of its interleaved thinking and its constitutional need to explain its reasoning, it's very thorough, very verbose.
So give me an example. A cheap token price can still lead to a high bill.
For sure. Ask a competitor for a solution, you might get 1,000 tokens of code. Ask Opus 4.5, and you might get the same code followed by 2,500 tokens explaining its reasoning, the alternatives it considered, the trade-offs.
So if you're using it intensively, those extra output tokens add up fast.
They can inflate your bill to the point where it might even cost more than a competitor with a higher base rate. It's something to watch.
Which kind of undermines the accessibility argument if you're not careful. Okay, challenge 3, security.
Look, Anthropic is aiming for the highest standard, but security is never absolute. The model is highly resistant to prompt attacks, but it is not immune.
And the attackers are always innovating.
They are always finding new ways to trick these systems. It's a persistent headache for the entire industry.
And finally, the ethical access question. This connects to some of the broader warnings about AGI.
It does. Right now, full access is limited to Pro and Max subscribers. We're talking $100 or more a month.
Which is fine for some people, but it's a barrier for small businesses or, underfunded research teams.
And this is exactly what AGI safety papers have warned about for years. If these powerful new tools are stuck behind a paywall, it can accelerate inequality.
The rich get richer, essentially.
The competitive gap widens. If only the massive, already successful companies can afford to unleash this McKinsey consultant with superpowers across their entire organization, who really benefits from the revolution.
It's a critical question, so let's synthesize this all for you, the listener. What is the core conclusion we should walk away with?
I think Claude Opus 4.5 is an undeniable catalyst. It's redefining what's possible by merging that unique philosophy, constitutional AI, with just powerhouse performance that sets new benchmarks.
And for you, the user, what it really means is efficiency, less hand-holding. In spreadsheets, in research, and especially in coding.
It turns hours of tedious work into minutes of oversight. It genuinely improves the quality of the user experience.
It feels like the arrival of a truly capable digital partner.
It does. But before we wrap, we have to leave you with the biggest question that the source material raises. Something for you to really think about.
We've talked about its autonomy, its ability to work on long projects. So the question is this.
Are we ready for it?
Are we, as users, as businesses, as a society, ready for an AI that can work alone without breaks for 30 or more consecutive hours?
Because that's the scale of the shift we're talking about. The question is no longer can it do the work. It's what is the human's role when your consultant has actual superpowers and never needs to sleep?
And that shift is happening right now.
It is.
A fascinating and maybe slightly terrifying thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this knowledge accelerates your work. We'll catch you next time.